Distinguished panelists, honored guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, let me begin by apologizing for my physical absence from this important dialogue. I was recently treated for a sudden bacterial and viral infection and remained under medical observation until midweek, which prevented my travel to Abuja yesterday. I therefore address you today from Brussels in Belgium before returning to Nigeria shortly, inshallah. I thank the Trust newspapers for the honor of inviting me to speak at this 23rd Daily Trust Dialogue. The theme, Nigeria's Fourth Republic, what is working and what is not, is timely not because the Republic is young, but because it is old enough to be judged honestly against the expectations that gave it birth. So let me begin by framing the question. Nigeria's Fourth Republic is now in its 27th year. It represents the longest uninterrupted stretch of civilian rule since independence in 1960. That fact alone matters. We have conducted multiple elections, transferred power between parties, sustained constitutional rule, and resisted the return of military governance despite insurgency, economic shocks, recessions, and a global pandemic. This endurance deserves recognition. It reflects not only the actions of politicians and institutions, but also the patience and democratic commitment of ordinary Nigerians. However, endurance is not the same as progress. Stability is not the same as prosperity. And elections alone do not equal good governance. The central question before us is this: has the Fourth Republic delivered security, justice, opportunity, and dignity to the majority of Nigerians? My short answer is this: it has delivered some gains, but it is failing in fundamental ways. I will therefore make 5 propositions. First, the Fourth Republic has recorded some real achievements. Second, it is democratic in form, but increasingly centralized and coercive in substance. Third, its failures are structural, not accidental. Fourth, the binding constraint is not democracy itself, but weak state capacity and poor leadership quality of political office holders. And fifth, unless these failures are addressed, public faith, especially among young Nigerians, will continue to erode with serious consequences for the survival of the Fourth Republic. So let me begin with what I think is working about this republic. Number 1, in my view, is civilian continuity. Since 1999, Nigeria has remained under civilian rule. Courts sit, legislatures function, governments change through election and not coups. In an African context, this is no small achievement. Military rule has largely lost legitimacy as a solution to Nigeria's problem. This alone is progress. Number 2, federal pluralism. Nigeria remains a federation, strained, imperfect, but still plural. Some state governments matter. Governors remain powerful political actors. Subnational governments deliver most education and healthcare services and employ the majority of public servants in Nigeria. This pluralism has prevented complete political monopoly and allowed pockets of success in some states, even where the center fails. The third is political competition. Nigeria does not have a permanent ruling party, and that is an achievement compared to countries like Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and even our neighbor, Benin and Togo. The PDP governed for 16 years. The APC will not govern forever. It is likely that in 2027, the APC will be gone. Power therefore remains contestable. This distinguishes Nigeria from dominant party systems elsewhere on the continent, some of the countries that I've mentioned. However, and this is critical, competition has not yet matured into accountability and good governance. Elite circulation has outpaced institutional consolidation. Parties remain weak, personality-driven, and transactional. The fourth is selective economic and industrial gains. Nigeria has experienced episodic progress, There were years of growth driven by macroeconomic discipline and infrastructure investment. Nigeria became a net exporter of cement, thanks to Dangote and other cement manufacturers. The Dangote refinery positions us towards self-sufficiency in refined petroleum, petrochemicals, and fertilizer. Again, that is progress. These are not imaginary achievements. They demonstrate that democracy, when focused, can deliver, but they are uneven, fragile, and easily reversed. I will now go to what is not working. Now let us turn to clearly to what is clearly not working, and here a bit of candor is required. The first is we have governance without accountability. Nigeria has built the forms of accountability faster than in the substance. We conduct elections, create agencies, announce asset recoveries, but accountability by those governing remains selective and episodic. Corruption has become dangerous for some that are in opposition, negotiable for others that are sitting on the fence and want to move to the APC, and invisible for those aligned with power. APC members are never accused of corruption. This cost is not abstract. It appears in unpaid salaries, abandoned projects, decaying infrastructure, and widespread cynicism. When laws are enforced unevenly, deterrence collapses. And when deterrence collapses, trust evaporates. And this is what is happening in Nigeria today. The second thing that is not working is what I call centralization without capacity. Nigeria operates one of the most centralized fiscal systems among federations, yet expects states and local governments to deliver most frontline and critical services like primary education and healthcare. Authority, responsibility, and funding are badly misaligned. This is not an accident. It is a design flaw, one that contradicts the 1954 federal consensus for a loose federation with strong regions and a limited center that our founding fathers agreed in the UK. Since 1966, successive governments, military and civilian, have entrenched this unitary federalism. The result is predictable. Everyone looks up to Abuja for money, looks downwards for excuses, and sideways for scapegoats to blame. A system that centralizes power but diffuses responsibility will always fail by design. But by design means we can fix it. The third is insecurity and the breakdown of the social contract. Insecurity remains Nigeria's gravest crisis. Insurgency, banditry, kidnappings, and criminal violence have displaced millions and devastated livelihoods. Despite rising security budgets, the state's monopoly of force has weakened. When citizens are compelled to organize their own protection, that is not resilience. It is a vote of no confidence in the Nigerian state. No republic can endure when security becomes a private commodity available only to those who can afford it. The fourth area that is not working is economic hardship and inequality. Nigeria may record GDP growth, and you will hear today from the government representative talking about over 4% projected GDP growth for 2026. But the lived reality is harsh and different from this rosy picture. Poverty remains widespread. Inflation, especially food inflation, has destroyed purchasing power. Policy shocks have accumulated without buffers. What distinguishes Nigeria is not hardship alone, but hardship without accountability, where citizens absorb every shock, while public officials and political office holders live extravagantly and with impunity. This breeds anger, and anger, when combined with frustration and hopelessness, is politically dangerous. The fifth area where things aren't working is law, justice, and democratic erosion. The law should protect citizens, not terrify them. Yet, We have seen in Nigeria prolonged detention, selective prosecution, and investigative fishing expeditions that have weakened confidence in the justice system. When law enforcement is weaponized against political competitors, democracy erodes quietly but steadily, and this is what we've seen happening in our country today. The courts remain the last refuge of anyone that feels persecuted. But when justice is doubted, when judges are compromised, the republic itself is weakened. What must change and must stop, I will go into now. If the Fourth Republic is to move beyond mere survival, it must now be judged by outcomes, not longevity. Nigeria must shift from consumption to production, from centralization of power to true federalism, where devolution of power goes to the states and local governments, and from power without responsibility to authority matched with accountability. Specifically, Nigeria must end borrowing for recurrent expenditure and prioritize food security. We must reform the constitution and allow state and community policing. We must devolve resource control and economic authority to the states. For instance, mining and minerals should be devolved to the states because the states control land, among other things. We must also strengthen our institutions through judicial reform and ensure that we have credible elections through an truly independent electoral commission. We must invest seriously in health and education at the lowest levels. And finally, we must restore ethical and competent governance for our politics to have meaning. But reform is not only about what must change, it is also about what must stop. We must stop the weaponization of security agencies, law enforcement, regulatory institutions, and the justice system for regime protection rather than for democratic preservation. Selective enforcement of laws must end. Arrests without evidence must end. Detention before investigation must end. Governing by intimidation rather than institutions must end. So let me conclude, ladies and gentlemen, with this. Nigeria's Fourth Republic has bought us time, but time alone is not legacy. We have the architecture of democracy, but its foundation is cracking under the weight of insecurity, exclusion, and widespread economic hardship. History teaches us a hard lesson that when reform is postponed indefinitely, as we are seeing in Nigeria today, rupture and collapse eventually arrive. The choice before us as politicians is not stability, but reform. It is reform now or instability sooner or later. Nigerians are not lacking intelligence, patriotism, or resilience, so let us not blame Nigerians for the current state of affairs. What Nigerians lack is accountability from those entrusted with power. And as opposition, we are not enemies of the state. We are the conscience of the people. We seek reform, renewal, and a democracy that delivers, not one that survives by coercion and selective persecution. I invite all those who wish Nigeria well to join us in restoring hope, dignity, and progress through reform, through progress, and societal consolidation, not repression, not selective persecution. Thank you very much. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I hope to take your questions during the question and answer session. Thank you once again.